What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so you may recall I did a video talking about this on Saturday night. There were reports then that President Trump and his regime would invoke martial law on Washington, D.C. to be announced officially on Monday, and that has come to pass. Trump made the announcement today in a speech, and he posted this on Truth Social this morning at 8:11 a.m. Washington, D.C. will be liberated today. Crime, savagery, filth, and scum will disappear. I will make our capital great again. The days of ruthlessly unaliving or hurting innocent people are over. I quickly fixed the border. 0 illegals in the last 3 months. D.C. is next. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald John Trump. So, of course, if you listen to the stories or reports, Trump's focus on this supposedly stems from a Doge employee, 19 years old, the one they nicknamed Big Balls for some reason. I guess he's, a cagey and ornery fella. I don't know. Got his ass whooped by some kids, okay, at 3 o'clock in the morning or some shit. Now, the story I've heard, I don't know how true it is that he was trying to buy some drugs and they flipped it on his ass and whooped his ass. I don't know how true that is, but, if it is true, doesn't make it right, but it also doesn't make him out to be this totally innocent victim either. Whatever the case may be, they're using it as an excuse to go about doing what they're doing. And to me, I think this is a glaring shift of focus from the Trump administration when it pertains to initially illegal immigrants. Now, for the first time, their official shift of focus as far as deterring crime or whatever is now on American citizens for the first time, although it's not stated, but it's basically implied that they're targeting Black and brown citizens, in particular Black and brown youths, who incidentally are some of the most likely Trump supporters out there. A lot of his support, the ones who did vote for him that are Black and brown, were younger voters between the age of 18 and 30. But that's who they're going to be targeted. So, when he's talking about getting rid of the homeless out there, right, on the streets in D.C., when they're talking about clean up the slums, he's not talking about white folks. He's not. So, as a Trump supporter, if you're a Black Trump supporter, we look at the actions of his administration. Getting rid of subsidies for black farmers for the first time in 60 years. When you look at his actions, I don't know how you can even. I'm not saying you gotta call yourself a Democrat. You can even still call yourself a Republican. I'm just having a hard time figuring out how you're still a Trump supporter when the guy's taking and giving nothing. You're getting nothing out of it. You might as well just be a fucking Democrat at this point. But, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. That's why I don't subscribe to either party. But anyway, getting back to what I was talking about. They've been lying about numbers. They're trying to say that crime is up in DC, when in reality, crime is at a 30-year low. As a matter of fact, crime is at its highest in DC under the Reagan and first Bush administration. So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense what they're talking about with crime being way up. But crime is up, like I said before, crime is up among young people. So that's the target right there. Another thing I want to point out too is that I used to think when I first heard this story a couple of days ago, I said, okay, here goes another distraction tactic against Epstein, right? We already know the other distraction tactics that they've tried with the whole Russia hoax thing and whatever, right? Whatever they think they can stick, him meeting Putin in Alaska, whatever, anything just to keep Epstein off the headline. But I don't think this is a distraction tactic. I think this is deeper than that. Don't get me wrong. I still think that they're going to be targeting black and brown people. The whole Project 225 thing it is real. I never stated it wasn't real. I just stated that the Democrats' hands aren't clean either, because they've been screwing with our communities too, letting in a lot of people from other countries, some of the most dangerous people into our communities, and having them, do what they're doing, attacking us, pillaging, unaliving our kids and unaliving women and raping women and all this other bullshit that they were doing over in their countries. You know what I'm saying? But the Project 225 shit is real. But on top of that, though, I look at this whole situation as like an attempted beautification of the city. Because Trump is a businessman. Trump is associated with businessmen. Trump also, in my opinion, I think he is trying to find some way around the 22nd Amendment. When you look at the story about how Trump has gotten rid of the bust of Dr. King, and now reportedly he's gotten rid of pictures of Obama and George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush, and replaced it with photos of himself. When you look at the fact that he's basically decorized Washington, D.C., the White House, as if it was Mar-a-Lago. This is a guy that's not planning on just staying there a couple of years. I'm starting to wonder if they're going to try to find some way around this shit, bro. And at some point, people are going to have to be exposed as, like, you motherfuckers aren't about the Constitution. You never were. You're self-serving, authoritarian, fascists. You motherfuckers really are. And, it might have to lead to another American Civil War. Pick a side. So it might have to get to that point, bro. Because if that happens, we're going to have to do it. What other options are there? But we already see what's happening in Texas, where they're gerrymandering Democrats out of existence when it comes to being able to compete. Republicans want to lock on the House and Senate. They want to find ways to maintain their majorities, if not extend their majorities. And that will be key. Plus, having the Supreme Court stay with a huge majority, a conservative majority to back Trump. And not only that, Trump's going to keep appointing conservative judges to appellate courts, so that he's going to have all these safeguards in place just in case they try to find some legal angle to get rid of that fucking amendment. Now, I don't see how it's going to be done because unless they change the law, which stipulates that it takes a 2/3 majority to pass an amendment, and I think ratification takes 3/4 of states. Unless they change that shit to being a majority or something, just a bare majority, I don't see how you repeal the 22nd Amendment. But also, I want to get to this other point I was trying to make. Everything they're doing in D.C., cleaning up homelessness and all this other shit, lawlessness that they're claiming, this is a forced beautification program. And by that, I mean they want to change the way D.C. is perceived, and they want to change the way D.C. Looks. And I think that's from a business perspective, because I've read that Trump is going to let this billionaire who's in cahoots with him, because it's all a big grift, by the way. Trump's going to let this billionaire, who's, I think, promising and is giving him billions of dollars, or hundreds of millions of dollars, excuse me, he's going to let him essentially have the city. And this businessman I'm talking about, he's a right-leaning German American who also happens to be a Nazi. By that I mean, you know, he, you gotta look that up. I don't want to go into specifics here, but it's bigger than just what they're talking about. You know, when you look at the fact that tourism is down in this country, you know, you look at all these other factors involved. I think that they're trying to do some things in DC. And then when you look at the fact that if Trump does, and he is going to get away with it because he's doing it now. Now he's doing this. Now that he's going to get away with doing this in DC, now you got to wonder, okay, what about some of these Republican governors? Are they going to try to find ways to crack down on their black and brown citizens? Or I got to say black and brown because that's who they're cracking down on. Are they going to try to find ways to do the same shit in their states? You know what I'm saying? Are they going to target minorities, take away their rights, find ways to put them in prison, in particular young people? Are they going to try to do some of the same shit? You know, it's just, this is a slippery slope right now, man. This is a slippery slope, and I don't know why a lot of people don't seem to be talking about this. I mean, to have the President of the United States invoke martial law on Washington, D.C., which to me is just a pretense to crack down on the civil rights of its own citizens, is unbelievable. The fact that people aren't, this is why Trump gets away with what he's getting away with. That people wonder why Adolf Schucker got away with what he got away with, because this is exactly what Germany was doing back in the 30s. Nobody was speaking out. And it gradually got worse and worse. And when his regime found they could get away with certain shit, they upped the ante. They upped the ante. So anyway, that's all I got to say about it. So what you guys think?